Greetings and salutations, friend. I am Jeremy Tank. I am an expert in behavioral branding. I am a master designer, and I am an RTT, which is Rapid Transformation Therapy hypnotherapist. And what I do is I help people just like you who are ready to build something more in their life, to really create a vision around that, create purpose, intent, and goals around that, and then reprogram their mind, their subconscious, their superconscious, and the connection of everything in between of where they are and where they want to be to create that. Really, I'm helping you create your vision of the future, whatever that future is intended to be. It's like life coaching on steroids if you want to start a business. It's business coaching with leadership. It's mental coaching, mind training with business and branding tacked on. So today I want to talk a little bit about why don't we feel like we are enough? And that's a tricky one because in learning RTT, really, one of the primary things that Marissa Peer teaches, and she's the one that came up with the whole RTT idea over in Great Britain and in the UK. And the whole idea behind it is that in hypnosis we get down to a deeper level, a subconscious level of being. And at that subconscious level, we can actually easily reframe some of those subconscious blocks, beliefs, limitations that have held us back from really achieving what we want to achieve with our life. Some of those things that just block us from being as happy, as full, and joyous as we can be. And I love that because, that's really what meditation has been about for the last 3,000 years, right? The gurus, the sages, what they'll tell you is, learn to meditate, learn to train your mind, learn to get down into a deep space and really zone out, zen out. And what's happening is you are setting your brain into away from this active state, away from this, it's called a beta state, and sometimes a high beta state if you are in super stressed out times. And through meditation and calmly breathing and the focus inward, we take that beta state down to a low beta state, which transitions into an alpha state. And an alpha state is really just that relaxed kind of zoning out, chill kind of place where your mind is starting to actually become a little bit more coherent with itself. It's sending signals that start to synchronize. And the thing with beta is that your brain it fires randomly. The more stressed out you are, the more disconnected we become with the higher logic centers, the motivation drives, the recognition of the things around us. Stress literally hijacks the brain and turns off these higher centers of cognition. So when we meditate, when we take a moment to breathe, when we do yoga, qigong, tai chi, just taking a walk in nature, like all of these things are tied in because they shift our brain into a different frequency. And this is really good for us, really, really good for us, because we are essentially telling our brain, back off from all these random firings and learn how to work with yourself again. Learn how to communicate in an organized fashion again. If you've read any of the books by Joe Dispenza, he talks about brain coherence as one of the primary things that are healing people. Because when the brain starts working coherently, meaning in an organized fashion where these alpha waves of brain frequency, meaning that there are peaks and lows that continue from front to back, top to bottom, all throughout the brain, it begins the healing cycle. And there's also heart coherence, which is where the heart starts beating actually more regularly, more fully, more capably, and that creates a larger magnetic field because the heart is a huge center of magnetic resonance within our bodies. So, and then he talks about the brain and the mind really becoming coherent with each other. And that's super. That's when the brain actually starts getting down into a theta state, a theta frequency. And a theta frequency is even deeper, even calmer than that alpha wave frequency. And what that does is that is like right before you go to sleep, right just after you wake up. That's a deep meditation, and that is hypnosis for the most part. And those gurus, those sages their whole point was to try to teach people to train their mind to get down into a theta state. Because when you're meditating in that theta state, you get to a place with training, right, where you can talk with your subconscious and rewrite some of those blocks, rewrite the codes, rewrite the things that are going wrong. Not necessarily wrong, because all the decisions in your life have been made to support your life, to support you living. That's the whole point, is that you have not made bad choices in your life, but the choices you have made have created indelible marks in your memory. And those marks become essentially the subconscious holding those truths as like the ultimate truth. So it's hard to break through because your subconscious is blocking you. Now, 95% of your everyday behavior is due to your subconscious mind, which means only 5% of what you do, what you choose, how you react to things on any given basis is really from a conscious perspective. So if you made choices in your life when you were younger, not even knowing that you were trained this way, right? Your subconscious holds on to this and drives how you behave through the rest of your life. And this is the reason that, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, they had, particularly in China, in India, they had people who were learning how to train the mind and go into this deep theta state to learn how to talk to their own subconscious and reframe, change, shift the way that the brain perceived those incidents, those choices of the past, so that those people could find more fulfillment in life. And the thing is that our days today are filled with so much stress and so much anxiety that most of us have completely turned off that neocortex, that newer part of the brain, the logic centers, the parts that are the most creative, the most energetic and exciting, to help you see the world and translate it into a way that is beneficial for you. Now, with that foundation, why is it that most of us don't feel enough? Well, yesterday, I talked a little bit about the idea of your energy being sort of, and by energy, I mean like on a subatomic level, I mean the collective energy of your body, which sounds like a symphony, right? If you listen to pure energy on a scale and you measured everything that was inside of you, everything that was inside of your cells, inside of your atoms, inside of all of the molecules that make you you, there is a frequency, and it sounds like all the cells humming, all of the atoms humming, all of the electrical, chemical, piezoelectric, all these crazy things that are going on inside your body humming. Maybe, to me, it sounds like a symphony. When I think about that sound, it's like brass is playing with strings and woodwinds and everything, percussion, everything else all coming together to make you, this opera that is you. And I love that, because why not sing with it? Why not enjoy that opera? Why not enjoy the music that is you in every moment of every day? That's why I like that. So all of that energy really begins at a certain point when there is a flow of energy through your body. And that sort of acts like an antenna, pulling. If your physical body is an antenna, what does that make your consciousness? It makes it like the radio signal, right? But it's not really radio because you're not a radio. But you are sort of an antenna. And the more that we understand quantum science, and the more that we look at the pineal gland, which is deep in our skulls, like in between our eyes back here a little bit, the pineal gland is essentially an antenna working on piezoelectric, meaning with the pressure inside and or surrounding it, actually gives off light. It gives off sparks. And those sparks, if you close your eyes, sometimes you feel like you see lights going off in your head. Well, that's your third eye. That's a pineal gland that's actually like shooting off different things. And this is like an antenna pulling in, working with this energy of your body, this frequency, this hum, this symphony, to pull in some kind of consciousness. And in my perspective, if you've listened to me, if you watched a couple of times, you know that this perspective of consciousness is really the quantum field. It's the idea of greater consciousness. In the Hindu religion, there is very much the idea that there is the physical body, that you have a soul, a spirit, a set, a personality that is here. And then beyond that, above that, just a little bit, there is the Atman, which is sort of like the perfect version of you if you hadn't had all of the challenges of your life that have created choices, created subconscious blocks, created all these different things going on in your body, with your body, and the choices therein. And that's sort of what I look at in this when I talk about, frequency and you being the antenna, is that there is a source of energy, a consciousness, a being, a sense of everything out there that is filtering down into you. And the more that we look at quantum science, the more that we see that really, if everything is coming down to energy and we are a symphony, this little piece of music being played in an ocean of energy that surrounds us and penetrates us, and we are just drenched in this energy of the universe, because that's quantum possibility. That's everything being available and possible at any given time, dependent on the observer. You're the observer. So by observing what's going on, you are helping determine what happens. Well, all of these frequencies that come into your body, there's nothing wrong with them at all. And that's step one. That frequency that comes down when a baby is born, it is, for all intents and purposes, perfect, right? You can't say a baby is not worthy. You can't say they're not enough. They lay there, they goo, they ga, they drink, they poop, they pee, they do all of that because that's what they're supposed to do. They're not fully developed yet. And after working with some people through hypnotherapy and talking with them, going back to these sorts of experiences that really influenced them and the choices they made, before they even really had any solid memories, they could remember points being a baby, or points even sometimes being in the womb. And the thing that is that at that point, you are essentially pure love. You believe that you deserve love. You believe in giving love. You are open and caring towards everyone. You don't have racism. You don't have discrimination. You don't have anger. As someone at that age appropriate appearance and look at the world, essentially, you are wide open. You are pure energy, pure possibility. Everything can happen. And then as you grow, you have to make choices. Choices that are really interpretations of the world around you based on what you know, what you believe, what you think you believe, what you think you know at that given instant. For example, as a 1-year-old baby, if you're hungry, you cry. And if mom can't get there to give you food, you create a story in your head. And it's remarkable what someone at that age believes about that story. I'm hungry, mom's not around, I must be abandoned. I must not be loved. I must not be worthy. I must not be enough to keep around. These are the sorts of things that play out. In high school or even junior high, if you're not picked for a team, you must not be enough. If you're not picked to be part of a social group, you must not be enough. You must be too different. And I say that there's 3 primary things that are, constantly come up with people. It's programmed into us in our day, our age, our way of living. It's I am not enough. I can't, or it's not available to me. I want to do something, but I can't. I want to live the life that I want, but I can't. I want to find someone to love me, but I can't. It's not available to me. And the last one is I'm different, right? I'm not enough. It's not available to me, and I'm different. And these are all stories that we tell ourselves from the point, actually, a little bit before birth. And we tell ourselves these stories because they help us relate to and understand the world around us. And even as we grow, especially as we grow, these deep stories become really embedded in us in a lot of ways. And I'll get into a little bit more of the embedding of emotion and memories within our actual tissues a little bit later. And Different is good. Right now, though, now we see that different is good. As adults, it's real easy to go, well, different is good. As a business person, you think, I have to be different. I have to stand out from the crowd. I have to do things my way so that people appreciate me for the uniqueness that is me, right? But even imagine, I I went to, I traveled a lot when I was very, very young, and I ended up going to like 3 different first grades. I went to a couple second grades. My parents just moved a lot, and so I ended up going to lots of different schools, and I felt different constantly. Mostly because there was all different groups of kids in different cultures. We moved around the United States, different ways of being, different ways of talking, different ways of associating with people. And when we're young, this drive to be like others is limbic. This is like the lizard brain. This is survival. We are programmed as a species to look, speak, exist, mirror those around us who we find compatible with ourselves, because we're trying to create a social group that is strong enough and large enough and powerful enough to push off predators, push off those pushing against us. It's a protection technique. So when you're young, being different, man, it beats the crap out of you, right? Like if you're different, if you don't fit in with a social class, with the cool kids, with the jocks, with the nerds, with whatever they're called these days, you feel ostracized. And when you feel ostracized, it's scary because you don't know what you're going to do. There's a deep, deep welling of emotion being ostracized. Generally in the past, I would say, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, if you were ostracized from your group, it meant death. It meant certain death. You could not protect yourself. You could not protect your family. You could not protect anything. So evolutionarily, over the last 10,000 years, being different was bad. And, we can look at that today and go, okay, but, different is good. But the thing is, we have an inborn survival technique that says, be like others. And that thing is so powerful, so strong of a drive within us that humans pair bond with anything. We have these things called mirror neurons that literally identify the ways of people, objects, cats around us. Can you even see her? No. And we pair bond with it for protection. And we start to replicate behavior. We start to replicate identity. And we shift who we are so that we feel more protected in our society. This is actually one of the reasons that during COVID, a lot of people are facing anxiety and depression, because most of our interactions, unless you are actively going to work, unless you have been from the very beginning one of the necessary crew in supermarkets, in stores, in car dealerships, people that need to be there because these businesses need to keep going to keep society going. The rest of society somehow changed to, Zoom calls and video things and all this kind of stuff. It does not provide you the same type of survival benefits as people in real life, in true life. You have to get out and deal with actual people so that you benefit from being around people. Being locked in the digital land actually harms us greatly because we aren't acting and fulfilling any of those biological drives for community, for compassion, for connectedness. And it's for all these reasons, the fear of being different, the fear of not being enough, if that gets into your head at a certain early age, that's what actually sets us up for all these troubles down the line. When we start to, and it's choice-based. I'm going to tell you that. You have never made the wrong choice in your life. You've made the choice in the moment that you believed would best serve you. So that's first off, okay? You're perfect. You came into this world absolutely perfect. You are worthy to be here. You are doing everything you can, everything necessary to keep you moving forward. You have looked after your own self, your protection. Good chance you've even looked after other people, right? And if you still feel like I'm different, I'm not enough, it's because there's something that's been put into your head when you were really young. Because, as I was talking about, those alpha frequencies and theta wave frequencies, theta is just before you go to bed. It's hypnosis, it's deep meditation, and that's where you can get down to that subconscious realm and start to understand the ideas that got planted there. And the thing is that your entire life, from the point that you are born till about 7, is lived in a theta state. Children exist basically in a waking sleep until they're about 7. And what happens is they absorb all of the information from their community, from their culture, from language, everything possible. They are just sponges. And they absorb everything because that is part of the growing process. That is part of the maturing and becoming process of being a child. And so much of our culture, of our beliefs, I'm going to say it, so much of it is just damaging. It's just completely damaging. And we have pushed it on and on and on generationally so that the kids today grow up with the damage that their parents had, that their parents had, that their parents had. And generally, we can actually see through epigenetic structuring and analysis that there is certain genetic changes in the DNA that happen because of choices, because of bad behavior, because of abuse, because of depression, because of these things. Because it's all the stuff that you hit when you're growing up, right? Your parents, if they didn't have a great childhood, if they didn't have great parents themselves, the behavior that's been programmed into their heads is from their childhood. The program that has been programmed into them is everything that they observed and were part of, really, when they were growing up. And so when they get married and they have you, they're going to keep replicating that pattern because it's what's familiar to them. It's what's in those subconscious programs. It's what's in the observation of how life should be according to them. And that's freaking hard, right? Like, you want to improve and live a better life, you first have to identify that a lot of the ways you are behaving are because you saw your parents or heard your parents do the same sort of things, usually before you were even got to 7 years old. This is why I actually started studying rapid transformation therapy. This is why I got into hypnotherapy, because there is no real good way without signing up with a guru, with a sage, with some, magician to sit down and go through your brain with you one thing at a time to deprogram you, essentially, for you to feel like you're enough. And learning hypnosis, learning how to put people in a state where we can explore those traumas, where we can safely talk about the things that don't let them feel like they can participate with society, like they don't feel like they can enjoy their own joy, that like they don't feel like they can make money because they're so worried about everybody else having money. A mindset is really just a foundational way of looking at the world. They do not come easily. You can't just say, I'm going to change on a wealth mindset. I'm going to change on a prosperity mindset. I'm going to change on a worthiness mindset, a joy mindset. Because so much of the way we are raised fights against that. That's our culture. That's the way we've all been raised. That's the United States, and what we have been told is important in being a citizen. Unfortunately, what's important in being a citizen is pretty shitty when it comes to being an actual person, particularly when being a compassionate person with other people and building community. So why don't we always feel like we are enough? Because when we're born, it's there. And too often, that feeling doesn't last because of the way that we're going to be raised. in our society, in our time, in our age. And I would love to look backwards in time and say that, it's not always been like this, that people can really embrace themselves and create new visions of themselves, new versions of themselves. But it's not been that way through history. We're no different than 5,000 years ago. I'm reading books by sages written 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years ago. And they're saying the same things. Like, look, you have to unprogram yourself. You have to let go of the ideas that are replicating up in your mind. You have to train your mind in order to change your mind. And in the process of that, you become somebody different. It's not bad. It's just different. Because instead of resonating with people on a, yeah, we hate the world, it all sucks, watch it burn, kind of way, when you change your mind, when you realize that so much of that is base programming, so much of that is music lyrics that got stuck up here that weren't super helpful then, but it really made you feel good and angry. Now when those lyrics pop up, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna drive like that. Or, I'm gonna take it out on my coworkers, let me play some metal. All of these things that train us to be a certain way, music, parents, school, government, work, movies, TV shows, all these things really put us into our own hypnotic state and have for decades. And a lot of the time, they are trying to create this idea of a story. An idea that something that draws you in, that resonates with you, that really helps you go, oh yeah, that. I see myself in that. And it's not the most helpful message. And that's the first step to realize that you are enough, that you are absolutely worthy, is that when you hear these things, when you start to think these things, when you experience that, oh, I'm different, I don't fit in, I can't go to that event, I can't go to, I can't do a thing, You came into this world ready to take part, ready to be, as a child, I'm sure you were active, you were jumping, you were ecstatic just to be part of life, you were laughing, right? We do that a lot as kids. It's much harder when we get older. There's too much to be taken seriously. Everything is dang so serious. You gotta work and eat and... We get way too serious as adults. Because we're told we're supposed to. And that's really how, that's my examples growing up. We have to be that way. But we don't. And that's one of the things that I just want to share with you, is that when you feel these things come up, and the way you might feel it is a bit of anxiety, a bit of depression, ennui, acedia. These are all just words describing right? We all be there. We all be there. We all get there. We all know that, life kind of has its ups and downs. I'm always talking about waves and frequencies and energy, and it's just ups and downs, and it's the way life is. And when you came into this life, you were just a pure ray of energy, and the things you've gone through sort of act like filters over your experience. You make a choice and it creates a filter in you. So the rest of your life, until you re-examine that filter, you're living by the rules of that particular filter. And when you, as an adult, as whatever age you are, there are people who actually learn to deprogram themselves at 14, 15. I'm 42 and I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. And it took me studying the mind and psychology and hypnosis and cognitive theory and quantum science and psychology to actually get a grasp on why the stuff works and why it's important. And it took me coming around to saying, that's not me. A lot. Because there's so much that goes on up here. There's so much that's music, the lyrics, movie lines, TV lines. Like, that was my life in advertising and marketing and all that kind of stuff. I was big on that for a long time. And when I actually came down to trying to focus myself and get myself on the right path for me, it involved me trying to learn what was me and what was not me. And there's a lot that was not me. So that's my purpose for today, is to say, you know, if you hit something, experience it. If you do something, take a moment and really, honestly ask yourself, is that me? Is that who I want to be? Or is that just an automatic reaction? Is that a trigger? Is that something I learned from long ago that is just rumbling around inside of me causing trouble? Because there's so much of it that just likes to cause trouble, right? They call that the ego. It's just looking for someone to pay attention, cause a little bit of trouble, poke the bear. Poke the bear, that's my phrase. Poke the bear. Because the truth is that everything you've gone through has helped you get to where you are now. And if we were living 3,000, 5,000 years ago, there's a good bet that the things that you did, the choices that you've made, the way that you were raised, helped you live to wherever you are now. Congratulations! And when you start to learn some of this stuff, then you start to want to deprogram your own messed up stuff going on in your head, right? Because you know that you are enough. And it's just choices that you made that are derailing how you're working with your mind now. And we can fix it. That's the good news. We can fix it. You know, some focus, some energy, some vision, figuring out where you want to go, take the right steps to get you there, recode you right from that quantum consciousness, right down through the antenna, right into you. I honestly believe that you can become anything and be anything that you choose to be when you put the effort and the focus and the vision and you start walking that path. Which is no different than, you know, gurus, the same thing gurus and sages and teachers, philosophers have been telling us for thousands of years. It's all in you when you're ready to hold on to it. So my name is Jeremy Tank. My website is www.thinktankcreative.net. I am really a brand and leadership coach, helping you be the best you possible to achieve the future that you want to achieve. In an unprecedented time where, honestly, there's enough people leaving the jobs that they were at or being excused from the jobs that maybe it's time to start living the life that you want to live. Maybe it's time to start taking those steps and being everything that you want to be for you, just you. And embracing that, figuring that out, taking those steps. Because you are enough, you are worthy, and it's just up to you. Go get it. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I love you. Bye.